Hey guys, back with another video. So it's currently Christmas Eve here in New Zealand, and today I'm giving away for free a tune that I've been working on called Existence, and that tune's getting released under my Downtempo project, Mind Mirror. So if you go down to the link in the video description, you'll get to the Bandcamp page where you'll be able to download it for free. If you want to donate money, you're welcome to, but the idea is just to let people have it free. So to accompany that, I'm going to go through the project here, and I'm going to show you guys basically pretty briefly and quickly how it was made. And then if you guys have some questions, you can leave comments in the description and I can answer them. But I'll try and briefly show you how everything was made. Now I've used a combination of taking presets and manipulating them slightly, along with just my own unique sound design. For example, the kick and the bass is all synthesized just using the VSTs that I've got, and a lot of my atmosphere is made by manipulating some samples and whatnot. So if we start off just by playing the beginning of the track, and then we'll pick some of the stuff that's going on. So right off the bat, you can kind of hear something that's a little bit vocal, and that's this sample here. So this is taken from Parabol by Tool, and the sample is pretty much just reversed, and it has a nice delay on it. So if we have a look at that, it's got a ping pong delay with pretty standard settings. That's getting low cut so that there's no low end coming through, because that's just going to mess up my mix. And it's just playing, there's a bit of volume and automation at the beginning to kind of slowly bring it in, and that's just playing nicely in the background, accompanied by this texture which is made in Silence. It's pretty raw saw wave with quite a few different voices playing a pretty low note. You can see that it's peaking down here. Later on in the track, I've got a compressor that's sidechained to it, so you can see it's getting pushed down by the kick drum. It's got a one knob wetter on it, full wet, so we're getting a lot of reverb, so that's putting it in a pretty interesting space. And then it's got a bit of volume automation and that whatnot on it as well. So that's playing in the background. And then we've got my vocal that doesn't come in until a little bit later on. And I've got the sound that I made using a preset. And you'll notice in a lot of my music that you'll hear sort of sounds like this, where I quite like them. I use like lots of whooshing sounds that kind of go around on like LFOs and pan and this sort of thing. I don't really know why I like that sort of stuff, but I end up using it all the time. So we've got an auto pan on it. We've got an EQ8, it's just chopping out the lows, and then I've chopped the highs as well later on. I could have done that in the same EQ, but YOLO. I've also got a reverb on it, so you can hear, delay on it, so you can hear the delay. I actually got this last year for free, or the year before for free. Native Instruments were giving away the replica for free, so that was pretty cool. We've got another preset that I've just changed slightly to suit my needs, and a lot of this all comes out of Serum. And I use a automated filter with Volcano to take the low out of it as it builds up. Just got some gain on there, and I've also automated volume. So gain, I don't need to be using it. Like, this project is pretty messy. I made it over a pretty long period of time. So, and then we've got my kick and bass bus, which doesn't kick until here. So you can hear that. It's got a high cut on it, so you can't hear the high end. So the kick was made, I actually still have the original kick up here in Kick Synth, so if I solo that. So that's the original kick. It's tuned to, I think that's D. I think this kick tunes in D. Don't have any envelope on it, it's just pretty raw kick drum, which I really seem to like the raw sound that comes out of bassism. So that's that, and then I've done a pretty small amount of processing on it, really. And to be honest with you, you don't, well, for the level that I'm at, I'm getting a nice sound out of this. I'm going to figure out as I continue ways to get nicer, tighter kick drums. But at the moment, what I'm mainly concerned with is the depth of my kick drum. So a while ago, I went through this sort of awakening to the fact that I really want deep low end. So D is already a pretty low note. I've got a bit of an EQ on it. It's probably better to listen to it over here. So it's just scooping out a little bit of the muddy mid range. That's also where my snare sits, and I typically use pretty big snares, so that scoops out a little bit of space for it. And then I've got a compressor on it that's -10 threshold. Not doing anything with the output. The ratio is 3:1, but I'm letting through quite a bit of the attack of that kick drum because I don't want to kill the transient. I just want to plump up that kick a bit. Now this bass line is very interesting, and I got a bit of feedback early on but that people weren't liking it, but they were telling me that it was too knocky, but I was sort of sitting there thinking, well, that's the point. It's supposed to be knocky. So it's almost as though it's another kick drum. Maybe a kick drum with the attack taken off it. But the way that I've made this is I'm using a pitch envelope along with a filter on it. So the frequency of the filter is completely shut. I'm actually only using a sine wave. And then the pitch is dropping down rapidly to create that kind of knocking effect. I originally saw that in a video that Rhinosaurus made about doing some of his sub bass lines, and it reminds me of that Xenon kind of chuggy style of bass. I really like it, and I think in a down-tempo tune it's actually really quite effective. So I'm using a medium curve saturator on that, just a little bit of drive, leaving the other settings default. I find that gives me really nice, it beefs up the sound nicely. Here I'm completely cutting anything below 30 Hz, because 30 Hz is the lowest you can get this EQ8. I could use a Pro Q2, but I'm not really noticing any major difference. So the root note is, I believe, is around 36, and then one octave up from that is 73, so I'm boosting that just a little bit. You notice my Q is quite narrow, just boosting it +3 dB, and then I'm cutting another octave up from that, -3, and then another octave up from that, -3. So off, on. Just seems to tighten the sound a bit, almost as though it's just concentrating it. I've got very low settings here on this compressor, not barely even registering. 3:1. The attack of it's coming through. Threshold's 10. It's not too much happening in there. I'm using R-Bass by Waves to add some upper harmonics in the bass line. So with that off, you'll notice that the low end is more apparent. This adds some upper range frequencies. I've got a compressor off the kick drum to push it down. That's very apparent what that's doing. So that's giving me the nice roll off the kick drum. So if I take that off, it's giving it that roll that we all love. Sweet. If we're looking at the overall channel, I've got my Volcano on here, and it's automated in a couple of different ways. So you see that it's got a high pass filter and a low pass filter in the same thing. So I can bring the high pass, I can bring the low pass open, and then I can bring the high pass up underneath it. It's a pretty cool effect. I've also got an alpha filter in there that's doing a similar thing. Up here, I really need to speed this along because I want this to be pretty quick. So I've got this, the sound that's in the background here also has an LFO modulating it, so it speeds up, then it slows down, and then we've got the vocal sample that plays. Are you with me? Yeah.
Of course. Are you willing to entertain a few concepts? I am always receptive.
It's a pretty raw sample.
Fine. Think about this then.
I'm cutting the low end and just boosting the kind of where the majority of the sound is. I've got a little bit of saturation on it just to make it a bit more gritty. Compressor to
Are you with me?
really push it down because it had a lot of harsh peaks that I kind of wanted to. It still has actually pretty bad peaks that I kind of want to iron out, but it's good how it is.
Are you with me? Of course.
Cool.
Are you willing to entertain
I
me?
have.
How do you know you exist?
Just basically rolls straight into that. So I've got this pretty twisted sound that's playing here, and this was made using FabFilter Satin, the dynamic weirdness settings in there. So I'm pretty sure I took my kick and bass channel and I just put Satin on it and affected the whole thing and then just recorded out what I had, and it turned out to be this. And then I put the replica on it with a wormhole effect. I wet it with some reverb. I just had a utility on it for volume automation at the end there. What else have I got? Just cutting the lows out of it because I don't want that. And then I'm compressing it a bit. I've got this sound playing in the background, which was just a little serum patch that I made. It's got a bandpass filter on it. It's just slowly got an LFO on it. Phaser. I'm wetting it and then just cutting the lows out of it. Got volume automation using a utility. Here I've got some effects. I got some pretty sweet got some pretty sweet sound packs. So I've just taken some of the textures out of that. So I basically, normally they have something at the beginning of them and then I just chop it out and take the tail end of them or something like that. Got all sorts of stuff in here. Just effects playing along. Oh, my guitar. Where is it? I've gone the wrong way, haven't I? So I've got my guitar that is kind of like a bass guitar that plays during this tune. So if we you use Serum, you're probably familiar with this sound.
Well, of course I exist.
So I got some nice gentle delay on it because I really like that, just trailing off. So I've actually taken this preset and I've turned all of the effects off apart from the EQ, the compressor and the filter, because it had all sorts of crap on it that didn't, in my opinion, enhance the sound at all. And then I changed my the release and decay envelope to give it more of a pluck without the long low end playing out. I've cut the low out of it and I've boosted the kind of flicking sound that happens up in the high parts of the frequency range. And then I have used the Hass effect, so I've got a simple delay. So if I just quickly turn off the delay on it, I've got that. And if I just listen to the raw, it widens the sound quite a lot. And then with the delay, you can just hear the top end of it floating away off into the distance. Alright, speed up, speed up, speed up. So I introduced a snare drum and some shakers. All that's just got typical compression and then a bit of reverb on it to give it an environment and room to be in. And then I add some more parts of the... Oh, sorry, my computer's freezing a bit. Hopefully it doesn't crash. There we go. So then I add some more percussion and I just kind of expand on that. Got a nice bongo loop. EQ compressed and then panned to give it some space of its own. And then all of that's getting compressed quite heavily. And then a bit of, sorry, I went over that. I've got this sound here. It looks quite complicated. I probably went way over top. I've got an arpeggiator. I'm just stepping, not at all. It's just playing the same note, but of a chord. So it's probably the D minor chord that's playing there. Very simple, just a saw wave with a bandpass on it. It's really not that detailed at all, this sound, but because of the effects that I put on it, makes it sound pretty cool. Compressing it, got a tremolo on it to make it feel like, if I turn that off, makes a huge difference. Got another filter on it, taking out the lows, slowly sweeping up. Got phase on it, so I'm phasing that. And then I've just EQ'd it to put it in its own kind of spot.
I really don't know what the outside universe is like at all for certain. That's it.
Cool, and then my lead instrument is coming in here. I call it Tool Acid. I don't know why I call it that, but this has a lot going on in it. So the actual patch itself is very simple. I made this, and then I gave it a name. So THL is my other project, Transcend New Limits. So I actually made this when I was trying to, I was writing leads for the other one, but it actually sounded way better when it was slow. So it's real simple. It's just octave down, it's a couple octave down, saw waves with a low pass on it. I got a bit of hyper flanger and chorus going on there. I turned the delay and the reverb off. I must have had that on previously. Got EQ cutting the lows and just boosting that kind of lower note there because it gives it a bit of character. Compressing. The volcano is mapped to the macro, and then I've gone through and mapped all of that out. I got another EQ on it to cut the low. Got way too many compressors and EQs on this. I probably could have simplified all of that. And then I'm just ducking it a little bit when I've got another instrument playing. And the arpeggiator is going +7 2 steps with Converge D minor. I have a couple of splash effects that come in. I've got a cymbal that plays, and then I've got that lower, that deep kind of choir voice playing in the background, which comes out of Serum as well. What else have we got in here? I think that's pretty much most of it. I've got that sound, that sound that's come out of Phocion, which I think is by D12. I think that's what they're called. And I got that out of, I basically programmed that in it's like a 303, and then I put delay on it, a bit of phasing. A lot of my delays are going off into sends. I use a lot of Timeless and Echo Boy. So that one's Echo Boy, and this one is Timeless. Pretty basic settings. That's pretty much it. All my pads are just playing a couple different notes and whatnot. It's using Holy Place and Serum, that's been modified. And this pad is Don't Go In There and modified. So yeah, that is pretty much how the tune's made. So there's nothing happening in here that's too hectic. I don't have anything happening on my master. I've basically got it sounding as good as I wanted just inside of Ableton, and then I sent it off to Drew from the Humble Grove, and he mastered it for me, and then the tune is getting released for free on Universal Tribe. So shout out to Drew and shout out to Lukey from Universal Tribe for their support. And I'll be performing and playing this tune this year at Infinite One, which is up the top of New Zealand at Takaka Hill. So if any of you guys out there are Kiwis and you're planning on heading along, come and say hi. I am pretty pleased with the vibe of this tune, pretty pleased with the message behind it, and pretty pleased with how it actually sounds, and I'm so keen to hear it on a big sound system. It's just unfortunate that I'm going to be behind it when I'm playing the tune, so maybe I'll skulk out into the crowd at one point and see whether I can have a listen to it. So I'm going to be making some more videos in the future. Keep your eyes out, and have a good Christmas and happy holidays. Catch you later, guys.